There is a moment in the 6th season of Game of Thrones where Cersei Lannister stands at a window and watches green fire consume the Great Sept of Baelor. Hundreds of people are inside. The High Sparrow, Marjorie Tyrell, Loras Tyrell, Lancel Lannister, her own cousin, Kevin Lannister, her own uncle. Hundreds of nameless faithful who came to witness a trial, and Cersei watches them burn with the calm expression of someone watching rain fall on a garden. She sips her wine. She does not flinch. The light of the wildfire plays across her face, green and terrible, and her expression never changes. Not triumph, not grief, not fury, something far more unsettling than any of those things. Stillness. The stillness of someone who arrived at a conclusion about the world a long time ago and is now simply acting on it. That is what this video is about. Not Cersei the villain, not Cersei the mother, not Cersei the schemer or the lover or the queen. This is about the nihilism at the center of Cersei Lannister. The belief, arrived at through decades of evidence, that the world contains no justice, no meaning, no order beyond what power can impose. And the show traces exactly how she gets there. Every humiliation, every loss, every moment where the rules she was told to follow failed to protect her, until the only philosophy left standing is the one she delivers to Ned Stark in the Godswood of the Red Keep, the one the show names an entire episode after. You win or you die. There is no middle ground. Welcome to the long night. Get comfortable, settle in, turn the lights down low, and if you have not subscribed yet, it really does help us keep making these. Let us get into it. To understand the nihilism of Cersei Lannister, you have to understand where it begins. Not with the wildfire, not with the walk of shame, not with the death of her children. It begins with a tent in the woods near Lannisport, decades before the events of the show, when a young girl with golden hair walks into the darkness to hear her future spoken aloud. The Wars to Come is Season 5, Episode 1. It aired on April 12, 2015, and it opens with something the show had never done before. A flashback. Two girls pushing through overgrown woods, one of them clearly Cersei, young and imperious even as a teenager, demanding that the witch inside the hut tell her what is coming. The witch is called Maggy the Frog. She is reluctant. She warns that people who seek their futures always regret it. But Cersei does not care about warnings. Cersei never cares about warnings. She offers her blood and asks her 3 questions. Will she marry the prince? Will she be queen? Will she have children? And Maggy answers each one with the precision of a blade being drawn across skin. You will never wed the prince. You will wed the king. You will be queen, for a time. Then comes another, younger, more beautiful, to cast you down and take all you hold dear. And the children. Gold will be their crowns, and gold will be their shrouds. Think about what that actually means. Not as prophecy, not as magic. Think about what it means for a girl of perhaps 13 to hear those words and carry them for the rest of her life. Every single thing she builds will be taken from her. Every child she loves will die. Every crown she wears will be temporary. And the show gives you this scene first, before anything else in the 5th season, because it wants you to understand that Cersei does not arrive at nihilism through philosophy. She arrives at it through lived experience, confirming what she was told as a child. The world has no interest in her happiness. The world has a plan for her, and the plan is loss. That is not a personality trait. That is a wound. And the show spends 8 seasons showing you the scar tissue that forms around it. The first time the show lets you see Cersei clearly, without the filter of other characters interpreting her, is in The King's Road, Season 1, Episode 2. It aired on April 24, 2011. Bran Stark lies in a bed, broken and unconscious. Catelyn Stark sits beside him, refusing to leave. And Cersei walks in. This is a scene most people remember for the performance. Lena Headey enters the room, and something shifts in the air. Not menace, exactly. Something more complicated than that. Cersei sits with Catelyn and tells her about a child she lost. A little black-haired boy, beautiful. Looked just like Robert, died of a fever. And she says that she prayed. She prayed to the mother every day. And it did not matter, the boy died anyway. Now, the show never fully confirms whether this child existed in both versions of the story. In the books, Cersei never bore Robert a living child. She tells us she made sure of that. But the show gives her this moment, this confession, and it does something very specific with it. It shows you Cersei in the act of empathy, or what looks like empathy. She is telling a grieving mother that she understands grief, that she has been where Catelyn is, that she knows what it is to watch a child slip away. But here is what the show is also doing. It is showing you Cersei at Bran's bedside. Bran, who fell because Jaime pushed him out of a window. Bran, who saw Cersei and Jaime together. Bran, whose silence is the only thing keeping Cersei's secret safe. And she sits there, performing compassion, while the boy's coma is the direct result of her family's actions. The show does not comment on this. It does not add music to tell you how to feel. It just lets you sit in the dissonance. A woman who may genuinely understand grief. A woman who is also checking to see if the child who could destroy her will ever wake up. That is Cersei from the very beginning. Not evil in the way fairy tales understand evil. Complex in the way that people who have decided the world is fundamentally hostile become complex. She can feel. She can empathize. She can even be kind. But none of those things will ever override the deeper truth she has accepted. The world will hurt you. The world will take everything. And the only rational response is to take first. You Win or You Die contains a scene that most people remember for a single line. The episode is Season 1, Episode 7. It aired on May 29, 2011. Ned Stark has discovered the truth about Cersei's children. He has gone to her in the Godswood of the Red Keep, in what he believes is an act of mercy. He is giving her a chance to run, to take her children and flee before he tells Robert the truth. And Cersei does not run. She does not beg. She does not bargain. She tells him a story instead. She tells him that she loved Robert once, that on their wedding day she thought she was the happiest woman in the world. And then came the wedding night, and Robert whispered a name into her ear. Lyanna, the dead woman, the ghost, the one Robert actually loved. And in that single moment, on what should have been the beginning of her life as queen, Cersei understood something. She was not a person to Robert. She was a placeholder. A warm body in the shape of a woman he would never have. The show lets you sit with that for a moment. The vulnerability in Headey's performance. The absolute absence of self-pity. Cersei is not telling this story to make Ned feel sorry for her. She is telling it to explain something. To explain why mercy is a concept she no longer believes in. Why she does not run. Why, instead of fleeing, she will have Robert killed and Ned imprisoned. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. There is no middle ground. That line is not a threat. Not really. It is a thesis statement. It is the distillation of everything Cersei has learned about the world she lives in. There are no rules. There is no fairness. There is no reward for being good. Robert was a drunk and a brute, and he was king. Ned Stark is honorable and decent, and he is about to lose his head. The world does not care about virtue. The world cares about power, and if you do not have it, you will be crushed by those who do. This needs to be stated plainly. The nihilism of Cersei Lannister is not philosophical. She has not read Nietzsche. She does not contemplate the void. Her nihilism is experiential. It is the worldview of a woman who has been shown, over and over, that the systems meant to protect her do not work. Marriage was supposed to be a partnership. It was a cage. Motherhood was supposed to be sacred. Her children were pawns. Being queen was supposed to mean power. It meant standing beside a man who loved a corpse more than his living wife. Every single institution Cersei was raised to believe in betrayed her, and the show tracks the exact moment she stopped believing in each one. If you are finding value in this, a subscription genuinely helps us keep making these long essays. The North Remembers is Season 2, Episode 1. It aired on April 1st to 12. And it contains a scene that exists nowhere in the books, a scene invented entirely for the show. Cersei and Littlefinger, alone in a courtyard. Petyr Baelish, the master of coin, the man who trades in secrets, approaches Cersei with a smile and a veiled reference to the rumor. The rumor about her and Jaime, knowledge is power, he says, quoting the conventional wisdom of their world. And Cersei does something extraordinary. She orders her guards to seize him, to cut his throat. Littlefinger's eyes go wide. The guards move, and then Cersei says, "Wait, I have changed my mind. Step back 3 paces. Turn around. Close your eyes." And they do, without hesitation, without question. "Power is power," she tells him, and she walks away. This scene is important not because of what it tells you about Cersei's cruelty. It is important because of what it tells you about her philosophy. Littlefinger believes in a world of information, of leverage, of the careful accumulation of secrets that can be deployed at the right moment. He believes the game is chess, and Cersei is telling him, no, the game is force. The game has always been force. Your secrets mean nothing if I can have you killed before you speak them. This is nihilism in its purest political form. the rejection of all systems, all conventions, all agreements about how power works. Cersei does not believe in the rules of the game. She believes that the game itself is a lie told by powerful people to keep less powerful people from realizing that the only thing that matters is the ability to command violence. And she is not wrong. That is the devastating thing about Cersei Lannister. She is not wrong about her world. Ned Stark played by the rules and lost his head. Robb Stark honored his word and was slaughtered at a wedding. The Tyrells played the game of alliances and manipulation, and Cersei burned them alive. Every single character in Game of Thrones who believed in the system was eventually destroyed by someone who did not. Cersei simply arrived at that understanding first, and she never pretended otherwise. The show deepens this in Season 2, Episode 9, Blackwater. It aired on May 27, 2012. Stannis Baratheon's fleet is sailing toward King's Landing. The city is about to fall. And Cersei is in the Red Keep with Tommen, her youngest son, and a vial of essence of nightshade. The scene plays out across the entire episode, intercut with the battle on the water and on the mud gate. Cersei sits on the Iron Throne with Tommen in her lap, and she tells him a story. A story about a mother lion and her little cub. The mother lion loves the cub so much, she would do anything to protect him. She would kill every lion in the world if she had to. And the whole time she is telling this story, she is holding the poison. She is prepared to kill her own son rather than let him be taken by Stannis, rather than let him be used as a hostage, rather than let the world do to Tommen what it has done to her. This is not madness. This is not cruelty. This is the logical endpoint of Cersei's worldview. If the world is fundamentally hostile, if there is no justice and no mercy, and no one coming to save you, then the greatest act of love a mother can perform is to ensure her child never has to experience that world's cruelty. Death is not the worst thing. Suffering is the worst thing. And Cersei has been suffering for so long that she would rather give her son a quick, painless end than watch him endure what she has endured. The show holds on Headey's face in this scene, the tears on her cheeks, the steadiness of her hands, the way she smooths Tommen's hair while she tells him the story, and you realize that this is what nihilism looks like when it is paired with love. It is not cold, it is not unfeeling, it is the terrible arithmetic of someone who has concluded that the world offers only two options, power or suffering, winning or dying. And for her child, if winning is impossible, then death is the kindest gift she can give. Tywin Lannister walks in at the last moment. The battle is won. The poison is never administered, but the scene tells you everything you need to know about where Cersei is, psychologically, in Season 2. She is a woman who will kill her own child out of love, because in her understanding of the world, that is what love requires. The show hints at a version of Cersei Lannister that it never fully explores, a version where she was not born into a world that punished her for existing. Season 3 gives you glimpses of this. Small moments, easily overlooked, where you see the intelligence and the political instinct that Tywin Lannister systematically refused to acknowledge. And now his watch is ended is Season 3, Episode 4. It aired on April 21st, 2013. In this episode, Cersei goes to her father. She wants to discuss the Tyrells, their growing influence over Joffrey, the way Margaery Tyrell has inserted herself into the king's affections. And Cersei is right about all of it. She sees the Tyrell strategy clearly. She understands the threat they pose. She goes to her father with a legitimate political concern, presented clearly and intelligently, and Tywin dismisses her. Not because she is wrong, because she is a woman, because she is not Jaime, because in Tywin's hierarchy of children, Cersei ranks somewhere below useful. He scoffs at her inability to control Joffrey, as if a mother can control a sociopath, as if anyone could control Joffrey, and Cersei sits there and takes it. She does not argue, she does not scream, she takes it, because she has been taking it from Tywin her entire life. Think about what that does to a person, to be right, consistently right, about the threats facing your family, to see clearly what others miss, and to be told, over and over, that your insights do not matter because of who you are, rather than what you know. Tywin gave Tyrion the position of hand. Tywin gave Jaime the inheritance of Casterly Rock as a promise. Tywin gave Cersei a series of marriages designed to benefit the family name. She was currency, not a participant. Currency. The nihilism does not come from nowhere. It comes from being told your entire life that you do not matter, that your intelligence, your ambition, your capacity for strategic thought are all irrelevant because you were born without the anatomy your father respects. And after decades of that, you stopped believing in the system that told you to be patient. You stopped believing in the father who told you to be good. You stopped believing in anything except the one truth you have verified through personal experience. Power is power. Everything else is a story men tell themselves. A quick reminder that subscribing is the single best way to support the channel. The Lion and the Rose is Season 4, Episode 2. It aired on April 13, 2014. The Purple Wedding. Joffrey Baratheon, the eldest of Cersei's children, the one who wore a golden crown just as Maggy the Frog predicted, chokes to death on poisoned wine at his own wedding feast. His face turns purple, blood runs from his nose, he claws at his throat, and Cersei is there. She is right there, on her knees beside him, watching her firstborn die in a way that no mother should have to witness. The show does not give you a close-up of Cersei's face in this moment. It gives you chaos. It gives you the crowd surging. It gives you Joffrey's body on the ground. It gives you Cersei screaming for someone to seize Tyrion. And that last detail is important. In the moment of her greatest grief, Cersei's first instinct is not to hold her son. It is to find someone to blame. To find someone to punish. To channel the unbearable pain of loss into the only emotion that has ever made her feel powerful. Rage. Joffrey was a monster. The show makes that clear. He was cruel and stupid and dangerous. But he was also her son, her firstborn. The child she nursed and raised and protected through every threat. And the show never asks you to reconcile these two facts. It never says, well, Joffrey was terrible, so Cersei should not grieve. It simply shows you a mother losing a child. And whatever else Joffrey was, that loss is real. That loss is catastrophic. That loss confirms every single thing the prophecy told her. Gold will be their crowns, and gold will be their shrouds. 1 down, 2 to go, and Cersei knows it. She has always known it. That is the specific cruelty of her situation. She does not simply lose her children, she loses them while knowing she was always going to lose them. Every moment of love, every moment of protection, every desperate grasp at keeping them safe was always futile. The prophecy said so. The universe said so, and now the universe is proving itself right. What does that do to someone's belief in meaning? In justice? In any kind of cosmic order? If you knew your children were going to die, if you had known since you were 13 years old, and then you watched it happen exactly as predicted, what would you believe in? What could you believe in? The world is not random. It is not chaotic. It is worse than that. It is predetermined and cruel. It knows what it is going to take from you, and it tells you in advance, just to make the taking hurt more. The trial that follows Joffrey's death is Season 4's most sustained look at Cersei's nihilism in action. She orchestrates the case against Tyrion with the precision of someone who does not care about truth. Witness after witness takes the stand. Sir Meryn Trant, Grand Maester Pycelle, Cersei herself, Varys. Each one tells a version of events carefully sculpted to make Tyrion look guilty, and Cersei knows he did not do it. At some level, she must know. The evidence is manufactured. The narrative is too clean. But it does not matter. Truth does not matter. Justice does not matter. What matters is that someone pays. What matters is that the pain of Joffrey's death is converted into action, into punishment, into the exercise of power against someone who cannot fight back. Because in Cersei's world, that is all there is. Hurt or be hurt. Punish or be punished. The idea that you might simply grieve, might simply feel the loss without transforming it into violence, is a luxury available only to people who still believe the world is fair. Cersei does not believe the world is fair. She has never believed the world is fair, and Tyrion's trial is the moment where that belief becomes fully operational, where nihilism stops being a worldview and starts being a political strategy. Something breaks in Cersei during the 5th season that cannot be repaired. Not the Walk of Shame itself, though we will get to that. Something earlier, something quieter, something the show does not announce with trumpets or dramatic music. Myrcella dies. The mechanics of it are almost unbearably cruel. Ilaria Sand poisons Myrcella with a kiss, using the long farewell, a slow-acting poison from the sands of Dorne. Myrcella is on a ship, sailing home to King's Landing with Jaime. She has just told Jaime that she knows he is her father, that she is glad, that she loves him, and then her nose begins to bleed, and she collapses, and she dies in her father's arms while the woman who killed her watches from the dock. Gold will be their crowns, and gold will be their shrouds. 2 down. 1 to go. The show does not give you a scene of Cersei receiving this news. It does not need to. By this point, you know. You know what this does to her. You know the arithmetic she is running in her head. 2 dead, 1 remaining. The prophecy is 2/3 fulfilled. And whatever happens next, whatever she does, whatever she sacrifices, the universe has made it clear that Tommen is going to die. The only question is when, and whether she can make someone pay for it first. This is the specific kind of nihilism that comes from losing a fight with fate. Not losing because you made mistakes, not losing because you were outmatched, losing because the universe itself decided you would lose, told you so in advance, and then executed its plan with perfect efficiency. That is not a world where effort matters. That is not a world where cleverness or strength or love can save you. That is a world where the only rational response is to stop pretending that anything matters and start acting accordingly. If this is the kind of content you want to see more of, subscribing helps more than you might think. Mother's Mercy is Season 5, Episode 10. It aired on June 14, 2015, and it contains the single most important scene in Cersei Lannister's entire arc. Not the most dramatic, not the most violent, the most important. Because it is the scene that takes everything she believes about the world and proves it correct in the most humiliating way possible. The Walk of Atonement. Cersei has been imprisoned by the Faith Militant, the same Faith Militant she empowered, the same High Sparrow she raised to prominence as a weapon against the Tyrells, her own weapon turned against her, her own strategy consuming her. And now she must walk, naked, from the Great Sept of Baelor to the Red Keep, through streets lined with people who hate her. The show takes its time with this scene. It does not rush it. The septa behind her, ringing the bell, chanting shame, shame, shame. The crowd pressing in. The things they throw. The things they shout. The way Cersei's face begins with something like defiance, and slowly, over the course of the walk, crumbles. Her feet bleeding on the cobblestones. Her body exposed for all to see. Her dignity, the only thing she had left, stripped away one step at a time. And here is what the show is doing with this scene. It is not punishing Cersei, or rather, it is not asking you to enjoy her punishment. The Walk of Shame is filmed not as justice served, but as institutional cruelty. The camera does not leer. The music does not celebrate. You are not meant to think, finally, she gets what she deserves. You are meant to think, this is what power does to people. This is what the world does to women who reach too high. This is the system reasserting itself against someone who dared to defy it. By the time Cersei reaches the Red Keep, she is weeping. Her feet are bleeding, her body is covered in filth, and the show holds on her face in the moment she sees Qyburn waiting for her, the moment she sees the mountain, reborn, ready to carry her inside. And in that moment, Cersei's tears stop. Not gradually, they stop, like a switch has been flipped. Like the Cersei who was crying has been put away in a box, and the Cersei who burned the Sept of Baelor has taken her place. That is the moment. That is the exact frame where Cersei's nihilism becomes absolute. Before the walk, she still operated within systems. She used the faith as a political tool. She played alliances. She worked within structures even as she bent them. After the walk, she is done. Done with systems. Done with structures. Done with the pretense that the world has rules worth following. The world humiliated her. The world stripped her naked and paraded her through the streets. And the only lesson that teaches is the one she already knew. Power is power. Everything else is a lie. Cersei, in Season 6, carries a specific quality that distinguishes her from every earlier version. She is quieter. More still, the fury that characterized her in earlier seasons, the sharp-tongued defensive aggression, is gone. In its place is something far more dangerous. Patience. The patience of someone who has already decided what they are going to do, and is simply waiting for the right moment to do it. The Winds of Winter is Season 6, Episode 10. It aired on June 26, 2016. It was directed by Miguel Sapochnik and written by David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, and its opening sequence is, shot for shot, the most carefully constructed piece of television the show ever produced. The music, the piano, a single piano, playing notes that have never appeared in the show's score before. No drums, no strings, no horns, just a piano, playing a theme that sounds like inevitability, like mathematics, like the sound of a clock counting down to 0. Cersei is getting dressed, in black, not Lannister crimson, not Lannister gold, black, the color of mourning, the color of endings. She is putting on armor, essentially. Not metal armor. Something harder than metal. The armor of someone who has decided that the world as it currently exists needs to end. Across King's Landing, people are gathering at the Sept of Baelor for her trial. Margaery Tyrell, Loras Tyrell, the High Sparrow, hundreds of the faithful, and beneath their feet, placed there by Qyburn's little birds, caches of wildfire left over from the Mad King's reign. The same wildfire that Jaime killed a king to prevent from being used. The same wildfire that was meant to destroy the entire city. Cersei is going to use it. Not to destroy the city. Just the Sept. Just everyone inside it. Just every single person who humiliated her, threatened her, took her son away from her, forced her to walk naked through the streets. Every single one of them is going to die in green fire, and Cersei is going to watch from her window, and she is going to sip her wine. Let that sit for a second. This is not the behavior of someone who has lost control. This is not madness. This is the behavior of someone who has arrived at a conclusion and is acting on it with perfect clarity. The world has no rules. The world has no justice. The world is simply a contest between those who have power and those who do not. And Cersei has decided, finally, irrevocably, to stop being one of the powerless, to stop playing games whose rules only apply to her, to stop pretending that the faith, the monarchy, the traditions of Westeros are anything other than mechanisms designed to keep people in their place. She burns them. She burns all of them, and the look on her face as the wildfire erupts is not triumph. It is not joy. It is confirmation. She was right. She was always right. The world is exactly as empty and cruel as she always suspected, and now she is simply acting in accordance with that truth. Tommen watches the Sept burn from his window in the Red Keep. His wife was inside. Margaery, whom he loved, whom Cersei tried to separate him from, is dead. And Tommen removes his crown, sets it on the table, walks to the window, and steps out. Gold will be their crowns. And gold will be their shrouds. 3 down, 3 for 3, the prophecy complete. And Cersei is told, a servant, Qyburn. Someone comes and tells her that her last child, her baby, her Tommen, has killed himself because of what she did, because of the wildfire, because she burned his wife alive. The show gives you one reaction shot. One. Cersei looks at Tommen's body on the slab and says, burn him. Burn his body and scatter the ashes where the Sept stood. He should be with his grandfather and brother and sister. That is it. That is all she says. No tears, no collapse, no theatrical grief, just instructions. Practical, efficient, as if the last thread connecting her to anything resembling human feeling has been cut, and what remains is simply an organism designed to acquire and hold power. That is not the behavior of someone who does not love her children. That is the behavior of someone who loved them completely and has now lost them completely, and has decided that since the universe took everything, she will take everything in return. The nihilism is total now. There is nothing left to protect. Nothing left to fear losing, nothing left to hope for. There is only power and the exercise of power and the grim satisfaction of proving, to no one, to everyone, to herself, that she was right all along. The world is empty, the world is cruel, and the only truth is the one she told Ned Stark in the Godswood. You win or you die. For those who have been here a while, thank you. For those who are new, subscribing keeps these essays coming. What the show does with Cersei in Season 7 is something most analyses overlook, because it looks like character stagnation. She sits on the Iron Throne, she drinks wine, she schemes, she refuses to help fight the White Walkers, she lies to everyone around her, and from the outside, it looks like the show ran out of things to do with her. Like she became, as many critics argued, one-dimensional, the evil queen, the final boss, the obstacle to be overcome. But that reading misses something crucial. It misses what Cersei is doing in Season 7. What she is actually doing, beneath the scheming and the wine and the cold stares, is waiting to die. Eastwatch is Season 7, Episode 5. It aired on August 13, 2017, and it contains a scene that reframes everything about Cersei's late-season behavior. She tells Jaime she is pregnant, another child, after losing all 3, after the prophecy was fulfilled, after she had every reason to believe she would never be a mother again. And the way she delivers this news is extraordinary. There is no joy in it, no hope. She tells Jaime with the flat affect of someone reporting a weather condition, I am pregnant. as if she already knows what the prophecy means for this child, as if she already knows that any child of hers is marked for death, as if the announcement is less a celebration and more an acknowledgement that the universe is not done with her yet, that there is still something left to take. And then she says something to Jaime that reveals the depth of her nihilism more clearly than any wildfire explosion ever could. Never betray me again. Not I love you. Not I am happy. Not we are going to be a family. Never betray me again. Because in Cersei's world, even love is a weapon. Even pregnancy is leverage. Even the life growing inside her is, first and foremost, a tool for maintaining control. This is what total nihilism looks like in a person who is still functioning. She does not stop living. She does not stop planning. She does not curl up and wait for death. She keeps going. She keeps acquiring. She keeps defending. But the why has been hollowed out. There is nothing inside her motivating the accumulation of power except the accumulation of power itself. The children are dead. The love is dead. The hope is dead. What remains is momentum. A machine that has been running for so long it has forgotten what it was originally built to produce. Season 7 opens with Cersei standing on a painted map of Westeros. Literally standing on the world, looking down at it. Surrounded by enemies on every side. Daenerys to the south. Jon to the north. Euron on the seas. And she does not seem afraid. She seems almost bored. As if the game she has been playing her entire life has finally become so simple, so stripped of pretense, that it no longer requires her full attention. Euron Greyjoy comes to court. He offers his fleet. He offers himself. He offers marriage. And Cersei refuses him. Not because she has standards. Not because she is loyal to Jaime. Because she is running a calculation. What does Euron offer that she cannot take? What does he provide that justifies the vulnerability of an alliance? He will need to prove himself first. He will need to bring her a gift. And Euron does. He brings her Ellaria sand and Tyene sand. The woman who killed Myrcella, and her daughter, delivered in chains. What Cersei does to them is the most revealing thing she does in the entire 7th season. She poisons Tyene with the long farewell, the same poison Ellaria used on Myrcella. She forces Ellaria to watch her daughter die. Slowly, over days. The same way Cersei had to watch her own children die. The same helplessness. The same inability to stop what is coming. And then she leaves Ellaria in the cell, alive, alone, watching her daughter's corpse decompose. This is not justice. Cersei does not call it justice. She calls it punishment. And there is a difference. Justice implies a system, rules, proportionality. Punishment implies only power, the power to hurt someone who hurt you, the power to make them feel what you felt. And that is all Cersei believes in by this point. Not law, not order, not even revenge in any meaningful sense. Just the bare exercise of causing pain to those who caused her pain. This is nihilism as a governing philosophy. When you strip away all belief in systems, all faith in institutions, all hope for the future, what remains is simply the ability to inflict your will on the world. Not for any purpose. Not toward any goal. Just because you can. Just because the alternative where you sit quietly and accept what has been done to you, is unacceptable. Not because it is wrong. Nothing is wrong in a world without meaning, but because it is weak. And weakness is the one thing Cersei Lannister will never be again. The Dragon and the Wolf is Season 7, Episode 7, the finale. It aired on August 27, 2017. All the great powers of Westeros gather in the Dragon Pit. Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, Tyrion Lannister. They have come to show Cersei a white, to prove that the dead are coming, to ask for a truce. And Cersei agrees. She agrees to send her armies north. She agrees to the armistice. She shakes hands and makes promises, and looks everyone in the eye. And then, the moment they leave, she tells Jaime it was all a lie. She has no intention of sending armies north. She has no intention of helping. Let the dead and the living fight each other. Let them bleed each other dry. And when it is over, when the survivors stumble south, exhausted and broken, Cersei will be waiting with a fresh army, ready to take everything. Jaime is horrified. He tells her this is suicide, that if the dead win, they will come for everyone, that this is bigger than politics, that there are things worth fighting for beyond the Iron Throne. And Cersei does not care. She genuinely does not care. Not because she is stupid, not because she does not understand the threat, because she has run the calculation and decided that a world where she surrenders power is worse than a world where everyone dies, because power is the only thing she has left, the only thing that means anything. And giving it up, even to save the world, would be to admit that the world is worth saving. It is not. In Cersei's understanding, it is not. The world killed her children. The world humiliated her. The world told her since she was 13 years old that everything she loved would be taken. Why would she lift a finger to save it? Let it burn. Let it freeze. Let the dead have it. At least she will be queen of whatever is left. That is nihilism taken to its absolute logical extreme, the willingness to let the world end, rather than participate in its salvation on anyone's terms but your own. A gentle nudge to subscribe if you have not already. It makes a real difference. A question hangs over the final 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, unasked and unanswered. Did Cersei ever actually want the Iron Throne? Not power. Power she has always wanted. Power she has always understood. But the throne itself, the symbol, the responsibility, the endless parade of decisions and petitioners and compromises that come with actually ruling. The answer, once you look at it clearly, is no. Cersei never wanted to be queen in the sense of wanting to govern. She wanted to be queen in the sense of wanting to be untouchable. The throne was never the goal. The throne was the wall she was building between herself and the world, high enough and thick enough that nothing could ever reach her again. Nothing could humiliate her. Nothing could strip her bare. Nothing could take what she had built. And this is the final, devastating dimension of her nihilism. Even the things she fought for her entire life, even the power she murdered and burned and betrayed to acquire, means nothing to her. It is not a triumph. It is not a prize. It is simply the absence of vulnerability. The absence of the possibility of being hurt. And that is a fundamentally nihilistic relationship with achievement. She does not want the thing for what it is. She wants it for what it prevents. She is not reaching towards something, she is running from something. And you cannot run from what is inside you. Season 8 strips this bare with ruthless efficiency. Cersei has the throne. She has Euron's fleet. She has the Golden Company. She has every strategic advantage. And none of it matters. Because Daenerys has a dragon. Because the world has decided, once again, that Cersei does not get to win. That the prophecy was right. That everything she built will be taken from her by someone younger and more beautiful. The Bells is Season 8, Episode 5. It aired on May 12, 2019, and it is the episode where Cersei Lannister dies. Not in triumph, not in a blaze of glory, not even in a moment of defiance. She dies in the basement of the Red Keep, crushed by falling rubble, holding Jaime's hand, weeping. Think about what that means for a character who spent 8 seasons insisting that emotion was weakness. Who spent 8 seasons building walls and burning bridges and refusing to need anyone. In the final moments of her life, Cersei is not the queen. She is not the nihilist. She is not the strategist or the survivor, or the woman who told Ned Stark that there is no middle ground. She is a frightened woman holding her brother's hand, crying, saying she does not want to die, saying she does not want her baby to die. The nihilism was always the mask. That is what the show is telling you with this ending. Not that Cersei was secretly good, not that she deserved sympathy, but that the nihilism, the philosophy that nothing matters, that the world is empty, that power is the only truth, was always a defense mechanism, always a way of coping with unbearable pain, always a story she told herself so that the losses would hurt less. If nothing matters, then losing everything does not matter either. If the world is empty, then the death of your children is just physics, just biology, just things happening to other things in a universe devoid of meaning. But in the basement of the Red Keep, with the ceiling coming down and the dragon screaming above, Cersei cannot maintain the story anymore. She wants to live. She wants her baby to live. She reaches for Jaime not because he represents power, but because he represents love, because he is the one person in the world who has always been hers. And the fact that she reaches for him in the end proves that the nihilism was never true. Not really. Not all the way down. She always cared. She always felt. She always loved with a desperate, consuming intensity that she tried to disguise as coldness because the world punished her every single time she let herself be vulnerable. And in the end, with nothing left to protect and no one left to perform for, the truth comes out. Cersei Lannister is not a nihilist. She is a wounded person who adopted nihilism as armor, because nothing else kept the world from destroying her, and the world destroyed her anyway. That is the tragedy of Cersei Lannister. Not that she was evil, not that she was cruel, that she was right about the world being cruel and wrong about what that means. She concluded that cruelty is the only rational response to a cruel world. But the show suggests, quietly, in its final moments with her, that another response was always possible, that love was always possible, that Jaime was always there, that the wall she built between herself and the world also kept out the only things that could have saved her. But it is too late. The ceiling is coming down, the dragon is screaming, and Cersei Lannister dies as she lived, holding tightly to the one person she ever truly trusted. In the dark, underground, alone with her brother and the sound of the world she built collapsing around her. A thread runs through all of Cersei's relationships that the show never states explicitly, but demonstrates in scene after scene. Every person she has ever loved has also been someone she could not fully trust. Robert loved a dead woman. Jaime kept leaving. Her children were taken, one by one. Tywin dismissed her. And this is not incidental to her nihilism. It is its foundation. Nihilism, at its core, is a failure of trust, not a philosophical position, a wound, the inability to believe that the world will reward vulnerability, the inability to believe that love will be returned, the inability to believe that anything you give will not be used against you. And Cersei has been given every possible reason to believe exactly that. Every time she opened herself, every time she was vulnerable, every time she trusted, she was punished for it. She loved Robert. He called her by another woman's name. She loved Jaime. He left for war. He lost his hand. He chose honor over her. He left for the north, for Brienne, for a world that did not include her. She loved Joffrey. He was taken. She loved Myrcella. She was taken. She loved Tommen. He was taken. She trusted the faith. They stripped her naked. She trusted her father. He sold her to the highest bidder. At what point does it become rational to stop trusting? At what point does it become logical to conclude that the world is not going to be kind, that people are not going to be faithful, that love is not going to be safe? Cersei reached that point earlier than most. Perhaps she reached it at 13, in a tent in the woods, when a witch told her that everything she would ever love was going to die. And the show never judges her for it. That is the remarkable thing. The show never says Cersei is wrong. It never puts a character on screen to deliver the counter-argument, to explain why hope is rational, why trust is worth the risk. It simply shows you a woman living without those things, and lets you decide whether what you see looks like freedom or imprisonment. Because it looks like both. The nihilism frees Cersei from the expectations that cage other characters. She does not need to be good. She does not need to be fair. She does not need to justify herself to anyone. She is free in a way that Ned Stark never was, that Jon Snow never will be, that Daenerys Targaryen pretends to be but is not. Free from conscience, free from doubt, free from the paralyzing need to be right. But it also traps her. Because without trust, without love, without the ability to be vulnerable, Cersei is always alone. Even in a room full of people. Even on the Iron Throne. Even with Jaime beside her. She is alone with her certainty that the world is hostile, and alone with the exhausting work of defending against a universe that wants to hurt her. That is not freedom. That is a cage without walls, a prison made entirely of the prisoner's own understanding. If you are still with us, and I hope you are, subscribing ensures there will be more of these to fall asleep to. Lena Headey received 5 Emmy nominations for Outstanding Supporting Actress for her portrayal of Cersei Lannister. She won 0, and there is something almost poetically appropriate about that. The greatest television villain of the 2010s, a performance that critics consistently praised as one of the finest on the show, and the industry never quite gave it the formal recognition it deserved. But what makes Headey's performance so extraordinary, what makes it so essential to understanding Cersei's nihilism, is what she does with silence. So much of Cersei's philosophy is communicated not through dialogue, but through stillness, through the set of her jaw, through the micro-expression that crosses her face before she composes herself, through the way she holds a wine glass, through the way she looks out a window. The walk of shame scene in Mother's Mercy. Headey walks for what feels like an eternity, naked, pelted, screamed at. And her face tells you the entire story of Cersei's internal collapse and reconstruction. You watch the defiance crack. You watch the humiliation seep in. You watch the tears come. And then you watch, in the final moments, as something cold and terrible slides back into place behind her eyes. That is not acting. That is architecture. Headey is building a psychological structure in real time, showing you the exact sequence in which Cersei disassembles and reassembles herself. The Sept of Baelor scene. Cersei sipping wine at the window, while green fire erupts below. Headey gives you nothing. No smile. No frown. No readable emotion at all. And that nothing is the performance. That blankness is the thesis statement of everything the show has been building toward. A person so emptied of belief, so hollowed out by loss, that even the largest act of destruction she will ever commit does not register on her face. Because it does not mean anything. Nothing means anything, and the absence of meaning is the absence of expression. This is why the final scene works. This is why Cersei crying in the basement of the Red Keep is so devastating. Because Headey has spent 8 seasons training you to see Cersei as impenetrable, as unreachable, as someone who does not cry, and when she finally does, when the mask finally cracks all the way through, the contrast is unbearable. You have been watching a woman pretend to be stone for 8 years, and in the final moments, you discover she was flesh all along. One more thing needs to be said about the nihilism of Cersei Lannister, and it is perhaps the most uncomfortable thing the show asks you to consider. She was not wrong. About the world she lived in, she was not wrong. The world of Game of Thrones is, in fact, a world without justice. Without meaning, without reward for virtue. Ned Stark was honorable, and he lost his head. Robb Stark was brave, and he was slaughtered at a feast. Oberyn Martell was skilled, and his skull was crushed. Marjorie Tyrell was clever, and she burned alive. The good do not prosper in Westeros. The kind do not survive. The world is exactly as empty and hostile as Cersei always said it was. And that makes her not just a villain, but a prophet. The most honest character on the show. The one who looked at the world clearly, without comfort or illusion, and described what she saw. Everyone else was living in denial, telling themselves stories about honor and duty and the rightness of their cause. Cersei told no stories. Cersei believed in nothing. And in a world where the red wedding can happen, where the purple wedding can happen, where children die and cities burn and the dead walk south, believing in nothing might be the only rational position. The show's answer to Cersei's nihilism is not a philosophical refutation. It is not an argument. It is simply the image of her, at the end, crying in Jaime's arms, wanting to live, wanting her baby to live, proving, in the final moments, that even she could not maintain the fiction, that nothing matters. Even the most committed nihilist in Westeros, when faced with actual death, discovers that she wants to exist, that she wants her child to exist. That meaning, however small, however personal, survives even the most thorough attempt to eradicate it. That is not a refutation of nihilism. That is not a victory of hope over despair. That is just truth. The messy, painful, impossible truth that human beings cannot actually live without caring, cannot actually function without attachment, cannot actually inhabit a world stripped of meaning, no matter how much evidence supports that worldview. We are built to care. We are built to attach. We are built to hope. And Cersei Lannister, who spent her entire life trying to overcome that programming, discovered in her last moments that it cannot be overcome. The nihilism was always a story she told herself. The most elaborate, most sustained, most convincing lie in the history of Westeros. I do not care. Nothing matters. Power is the only truth. She said it with such conviction that she almost believed it herself. Almost, but not quite. And the show knows that. The show has always known that. From the very first scene, in the King's Road, when Cersei sits beside a dying boy and tells a grieving mother about a child she lost. Even then, even at the very beginning, the show was telling you, this woman feels everything. This woman cares desperately. This woman is terrified of how much she has to lose. And all the nihilism, all the cruelty, all the wildfire and the wine and the cold stares is just one long scream of terror disguised as philosophy. If nothing matters, then losing everything does not hurt. But it does. It always did. And in the end, Cersei could not pretend otherwise. The Red Keep collapses, the stones fall, the dragon screams above, and somewhere in the rubble, a woman who spent her life insisting that the world was empty discovers, too late, that she was wrong, that the world was full. Full of pain, yes. Full of cruelty and betrayal and loss. but also full of Jaime's hand in hers, full of the child she will never hold, full of the love she spent 8 seasons pretending did not exist. That is the nihilism of Cersei Lannister. Not a philosophy, a wound. Not a choice, a scar. Not truth, a lie she told herself to survive. And in the end, even that lie could not protect her. Nothing could. But there are scenes much earlier in the show that tell you this, that tell you the nihilism was always a fiction, even when Cersei believed it most completely. And they happen in the most unexpected contexts. Conversations with the one person in her family she has always claimed to despise. A Man Without Honor is Season 2, Episode 7. It aired on May 13, 2012, and it contains a scene between Cersei and Tyrion that the show never returns to, never references again. A scene that exists in isolation, like a confession whispered in an empty room. Tyrion comes to Cersei's chambers. Stannis is approaching. The city is in danger, and somehow, in the pressure of that approaching threat, the walls between them thin enough for something real to pass through. Cersei asks Tyrion about Joffrey. Not strategically. Genuinely. She asks if her son is a monster. She wonders aloud if Joffrey is her punishment for the sin of loving Jaime. For the incest. For the transgression that produced all 3 of her children. And Tyrion, for once, does not mock her. He does not score points. He sits with her in the vulnerability of that question and tries, in his awkward way, to comfort her. He points out that Tommen and Myrcella are good, that they are kind and decent, that whatever Joffrey is, it is not inevitable, it is not punishment, it is not prophecy made flesh. And Cersei begins to cry, not dramatically, not performatively. She cries the way people cry when they are exhausted and afraid and have been holding themselves together for too long. She cries the way someone cries when they admit, for one unguarded moment, that they do not have the answers, that they are not in control, that the world frightens them. Tyrion moves to comfort her, to touch her arm perhaps, to offer the most basic human gesture of solidarity, and Cersei stops him with a look. The walls go back up, the vulnerability disappears, the moment passes, and neither of them ever speaks of it again. But the show showed it to you. The show wanted you to see it, because this is the truth beneath the nihilism. Cersei is afraid. She has been afraid since she was 13 years old, sitting in a witch's tent, hearing her future described as a sequence of losses. And every cold decision, every cruel act, every moment of apparent indifference is simply fear wearing the mask of power, fear wearing the mask of philosophy, fear wearing the mask of not caring. She cares. She has always cared. And the caring is what makes the nihilism so desperate. So complete, so exhausting to maintain, because you cannot truly not care about a world that keeps taking things from you. The taking only hurts because you cared about what was taken. And Cersei's entire life is a monument to the impossible project of caring enormously while pretending to care about nothing. The usual reminder, subscribe if this is your kind of thing. It helps us more than you know. The Red Woman is Season 6, Episode 1. It aired on April 24, 2016. And it opens, for Cersei, with a very specific kind of cruelty. The cruelty of hope followed immediately by devastation. A ship has been spotted in Blackwater Bay. Dornish sails. Myrcella is coming home. And Cersei, for one brief moment, is happy. Genuinely happy. She smiles. She moves quickly through the Red Keep. She is a mother about to see her daughter. And the show lets you sit in that happiness for exactly as long as it takes for Cersei to reach the harbor and see Jaime's face, his expression, the covered body on the boat. Myrcella is dead. The scene that follows is one of Headey's finest moments. Cersei does not collapse. She does not scream. She stands very still, and then she walks back to her chambers, and she sits down, and she talks to Jaime about their mother, about the first time she saw a dead body, about how she does not want to see Myrcella's body because she wants to remember her alive. And then she tells Jaime about the prophecy, about Maggy the Frog, about gold crowns and gold shrouds, about the younger, more beautiful queen, about all of it. And Jaime says it is nonsense, superstition, that they make their own future. And Cersei looks at him. Just looks, with the expression of someone who has been living with a certainty that no one else will accept, who has been carrying a weight that no one else can see, who knows, with absolute conviction, that Tommen is going to die, that it is only a matter of time, that nothing she does will prevent it. That is nihilism as a lived experience, rather than a philosophical position. not the absence of belief in meaning, the presence of certain knowledge that meaning is hostile, that the meaning of her life, the narrative arc of her existence, has already been written, and it ends in loss. Every single time, without exception. Home is Season 6, Episode 2. It aired on May 1st, 2016, and it contains a detail that most people forget, but that is essential to understanding Cersei's psychological state in the episodes leading up to the wildfire. Tommen orders Cersei confined to the Red Keep. She is not allowed to attend Myrcella's funeral, her own daughter's funeral. The Kingsguard blocks her path. Think about what that means. Her son, her last living child, the one the prophecy has marked for death, is the one keeping her imprisoned. Not the Faith, not her enemies, Tommen, out of love perhaps, out of concern for her safety. But the effect is the same. She cannot mourn her daughter. She cannot say goodbye. She is trapped in the Red Keep while Myrcella's body lies in the Sept of Baelor, and strangers pray over her. This is the show systematically closing every door, every avenue of comfort, every source of connection. Cersei cannot mourn publicly, cannot act publicly, cannot protect her remaining child, because her remaining child is the one preventing her from acting. She is in a box built by the very institutions she once controlled. The monarchy, the faith, the traditions of King's Landing. All of them have turned against her. All of them are conspiring, not deliberately but systemically, to isolate her. And isolation is where nihilism thrives. When you are connected to others, when you are part of a community, when you have people who see you and acknowledge you and share your grief, nihilism is hard to sustain. The world feels meaningful because other people make it meaningful. But take away the connections, take away the community, take away the ability to even mourn your dead child in public. And what remains? What is the world, stripped of every human connection? It is empty. It is hostile. It is exactly what Cersei has always said it is. The show is not subtle about what it is doing in these episodes. It is building the case for the wildfire. It is showing you step by step, decision by decision, humiliation by humiliation, exactly why Cersei reaches for the most extreme solution imaginable. Not because she is mad, not because she is evil, because the world has left her no other option, because every legitimate avenue of power has been closed to her, because the only weapon the world has not taken from her is fire. And fire does not discriminate. Fire does not judge. Fire does not care about your title, or your gender, or your sins. Fire simply burns. And there is something deeply nihilistic about choosing fire as your weapon. It is the choice of someone who has given up on precision, on targeting, on the careful application of force. Fire is indiscriminate destruction. It is the physical manifestation of the belief that everything within its reach deserves to burn equally. That there is no meaningful distinction between the innocent and the guilty because those categories do not exist. The Queen's Justice is Season 7, Episode 3. It aired on July 30th, 2017. The title refers to Cersei's revenge against the women who killed her daughter. And the way that revenge unfolds tells you everything about where Cersei's nihilism has taken her. Ellaria Sand is brought to the dungeons in chains. Beside her, also chained, is Tyene Sand, her daughter. Cersei stands before them and speaks. She describes what Ellaria did to Myrcella. The kiss, the poison, the slow, gentle death. She describes watching from the dock as Myrcella's ship sailed away, not knowing her daughter was already dying. She describes the years she spent imagining what she would do if she ever got the chance to punish the woman responsible. And then she kisses Tyene. The same poison, the long farewell, applied the same way. A kiss. The symmetry is perfect, deliberate, surgical. Cersei is not simply killing Tyene. She is recreating. She is making Ellaria experience exactly what she experienced. The helplessness of watching your daughter die, the inability to stop it, the slow realization that the person you love most in the world is slipping away, and there is nothing you can do. And then Cersei adds one final cruelty. She does not kill Ellaria. She leaves her alive, chained to the wall, facing her daughter's body, with torches that will be kept burning so she can watch the decomposition, so she can watch, day after day, as her daughter rots. This is not justice. Cersei does not call it justice. The episode is titled The Queen's Justice, but the word justice is doing ironic work here. What Cersei is actually performing is not the restoration of balance. It is the demonstration of a thesis, her thesis, the one she has held since childhood. The world is cruelty. The world is pain. And the only power you can exercise over it is to become the source of that cruelty rather than its target. That is nihilism weaponized, not the passive belief that nothing matters, the active deployment of that belief as a justification for unlimited cruelty. If nothing matters, then suffering does not matter. If suffering does not matter, then causing suffering is morally neutral. If causing suffering is morally neutral, then you might as well cause it in the shape of your own grief. You might as well make the world feel what you felt. Not because it accomplishes anything, not because it brings Marcella back, but because in a world without meaning, revenge is as good a reason to act as any other. If you have made it this far, you are clearly invested. Subscribe so we can keep going. Cersei's nihilism has a specific quality that separates it from every other form of nihilism the show presents. It is productive. It does not lead to withdrawal. It does not lead to paralysis. It does not lead to the kind of existential despair that makes a person stop acting. Instead, it leads to an extraordinary, almost superhuman capacity for action, unencumbered by doubt. Consider the contrast with other characters who arrive at similar conclusions. Sandor Clegane sees the world as meaningless and becomes a drunk who drifts. Theon Greyjoy is broken by his experiences and becomes passive, unable to make decisions. Even Jaime, when his illusions are shattered, goes through a period of near catatonic despair after losing his hand. Cersei never stops. Cersei never drifts. Cersei never collapses into inaction. The moment the nihilism crystallizes, the moment she accepts that the world is empty and hostile, and that nothing she was taught to believe is true, she immediately begins building, scheming, planning, acquiring. The nihilism does not empty her of purpose, it empties her of hesitation, of the paralyzing doubt that comes from caring whether your actions are right, of the friction that conscience introduces between desire and action. That is what makes her so dangerous. Not the cruelty, not the intelligence, the absence of friction. When you believe nothing matters, every action becomes equally justified. When every action is equally justified, you can move faster than anyone who still believes in right and wrong. You can make decisions that others would agonize over without a moment's pause. You can burn a sept full of people because there is no voice inside you saying, wait, consider, is this right? Cersei does not hear that voice. She burned it out of herself, or it was burned out of her, by Robert's cruelty on their wedding night, by Tywin's dismissal, by the witch's prophecy, by Joffrey's death and Myrcella's death and the Walk of Shame and Tommen's suicide, and every single moment where the world proved that caring was not going to be rewarded. The result is a person who moves through the world like water, finding the path of least resistance, filling every void, flowing around every obstacle, never stopping, never hesitating, never asking whether she should, only whether she can. That is terrifying. That is powerful. And that is, the show suggests, unsustainable. Because water without a container has no shape. Purpose without meaning has no direction. Power without a reason to hold it has no point. And Cersei, by the final season, is a woman with unlimited power and absolutely no idea what to do with it. She has won. She sits on the Iron Throne. She has eliminated her enemies. She has fulfilled every ambition she ever articulated. And she is empty. The wine glass in her hand, the window she stares out of, the silence that fills every room she occupies. These are not the trappings of victory. They are the trappings of someone who achieved everything and discovered that achievement, like everything else, is meaningless. That the pursuit was all there was. That the nihilism she used as fuel to climb to the top of the world is the same nihilism that makes the top of the world feel exactly like the bottom. You win or you die, she told Ned Stark. There is no middle ground. But she won. And it turns out winning feels like dying. Slow and cold and empty, with nothing left to fight for and nothing left to fear. Just the endless, exhausting maintenance of a position that means nothing except that you are not yet dead. The Last of the Starks is Season 8, Episode 4. It aired on May 5th, 2019, and it contains the last significant action Cersei takes before her death. Missandei, Daenerys Targaryen's advisor, her closest friend, stands in chains on the battlements of the Red Keep. Cersei stands above her. The Mountain stands behind Missandei with his great sword drawn, and Cersei gives the order. The Mountain swings. Missandei's head falls, and Daenerys watches from below. What is Cersei accomplishing with this execution? Think about it practically. Missandei is a translator, an advisor. She has no military value. She commands no armies. Killing her does not weaken Daenerys strategically. It does not improve Cersei's defensive position. It does not buy time or gain allies, or shift the balance of power in any measurable way. What it does is provoke. It guarantees that Daenerys will attack with everything she has. It guarantees maximum fury, maximum destruction, maximum violence directed at King's Landing, at Cersei's own city, at the people she is theoretically responsible for protecting. And Cersei knows this. She is not stupid. She understands exactly what killing Missandei will cause. She does it anyway. Because by this point, provocation is the only kind of agency she has left. She cannot win. She knows she cannot win. One dragon against all of her scorpions, against the Golden Company, against every advantage she has purchased. The odds are not good, and Cersei has spent her entire life being realistic about odds. So why provoke? Why guarantee the worst possible attack? Because nihilism, at its terminal stage, becomes indifferent to outcomes. If winning is meaningless, and losing is meaningless, and survival is meaningless, and death is meaningless, then the only thing left that has any weight at all is the ability to choose, the ability to act, the ability to be the one who decides how things go, even if how things go is catastrophe, even if the choice you make is the choice that destroys you. Cersei would rather be the architect of her own destruction than the passive recipient of someone else's mercy. She would rather burn than surrender. She would rather die as the woman who chose to kill Missandei than live as the woman who begged for terms. That is nihilism's final form, not the rejection of meaning, the rejection of passivity, the insistence on agency, even when agency can only lead to ruin. She stands on those battlements, watching Daenerys' face twist with grief and fury, and she knows what is coming. She knows the dragon will come. She knows the fire will come. She knows the Red Keep will fall, and she has made her peace with it, because at least it will be her doing. At least the end, when it arrives, will arrive because of a choice she made. Not because she begged, not because she ran, not because she bent the knee. That is the last action of Cersei Lannister as a political actor. An execution that serves no strategic purpose. A provocation that guarantees her own destruction. A choice made not because it leads anywhere, but because it is a choice. Because choosing, in a world without meaning, is the only thing that still feels like being alive. The show does something else with Cersei, in its final seasons, that deserves examination. The wine. The ever-present goblet of red wine that becomes almost an extension of her body, a prop so consistent that it becomes symbol, and the symbol is not difficult to read. The wine is anesthesia. The wine is the thing that fills the space where meaning used to be. Robert drank because he was miserable, because the throne bored him, because the woman he loved was dead and the woman he married was not her. Cersei watched Robert drink himself into a stupor for 17 years. She watched alcohol erode him. She used alcohol to kill him, instructing Lancel to keep his wineskin full during the hunt that claimed his life. She understood, from intimate observation, exactly what excessive drinking signifies. It signifies someone who cannot bear to be fully present in their own life. And then she becomes that person, not with Robert's loud, gregarious drunkenness, with something quieter, more controlled, the steady consumption of someone who is not trying to have a good time, who is not celebrating, who is simply managing the experience of being conscious, dulling the edges, softening the silence, filling the emptiness with something, anything, that makes the hours bearable. The show never comments on this directly. No character says to Cersei, "You are drinking too much." No scene stages an intervention. The wine is simply there, in every scene, in every hand, a constant companion in a life emptied of all other companions. And if you pay attention, if you watch the progression from season 1 through season 8, the amount she drinks increases as the number of people she loves decreases. As the children die, the wine increases. As the allies disappear, the wine increases. As the nihilism deepens, the wine rises to fill the void. This is not a character flaw. This is self-medication. This is the behavioral expression of a worldview that says nothing matters and a body that cannot quite believe it. Because if nothing truly mattered, you would not need to numb yourself. You would not need anesthesia for a life that does not hurt. The wine is proof, quiet and constant, that Cersei's nihilism is a lie she cannot fully sell to her own nervous system. The pain is still there. The grief is still there. The terror is still there. She has merely found a way to keep it at arm's length, to observe it from a slight distance, to look at the destruction she has wrought and the losses she has suffered through the merciful blur of alcohol rather than the sharp clarity of sobriety. Robert drank and died. Cersei drank and lived. But living, for Cersei, became its own form of death. A long, slow, anesthetized waiting for the prophecy to finish its work. A long, slow countdown to the moment when the younger, more beautiful queen would come, when the last shroud would fall, when there would be nothing left to drink against. In Season 7, Cersei has a conversation with Jaime that illuminates this emptiness. She speaks of their father's legacy, of the Lannister name, of building a dynasty that will last 1,000 years, and Jaime asks her, for whom? Their children are dead. Who inherits this dynasty? Who benefits from this legacy? Who is all of this for? And Cersei does not have an answer, not a real one. She gestures at the future, at the baby she says she is carrying, at some vague notion of continuation. But you can see in Headey's performance that even she does not believe it. That the words are a habit, a script she is reciting from memory, because the alternative, admitting that there is no point, admitting that the nihilism has won, admitting that she is building an empire for no one, would mean stopping, and stopping means thinking, and thinking means feeling, and feeling means facing the truth she has been running from since she was 13 years old, that she was always going to lose everything, and that no amount of power would change that. The show returns, one final time, to the image of Cersei at a window. Season 8. Episode 5, The Bells. The city is burning, not with wildfire this time, with dragonfire. Daenerys Targaryen, the younger and more beautiful queen the prophecy promised, is destroying everything Cersei built, and Cersei watches from the window of the Red Keep, the same way she watched the Sept burn. The same posture, the same silence, the same wine glass. But something is different this time. The stillness is not control, it is shock. The blankness is not power, it is incomprehension. For the first time in the show's entire run, Cersei is watching something she did not plan. Something she cannot control. Something that exceeds even her capacity for nihilistic acceptance. Because this is not her destruction being inflicted on others. This is destruction coming for her. This is the prophecy's final act. The younger queen. The casting down. The taking of all she holds dear. And Cersei runs. She runs through the Red Keep as the stones fall. She runs past her own soldiers dying. She runs past the collapse of everything she built, and she finds Jaime. In the basement. In the dark. Her twin. Her other half, the one person who was always there, even when he should not have been, even when she drove him away, even when she threatened him. And she tells him she does not want to die. She tells him she does not want their baby to die. And the nihilism is gone. Completely. In that moment, standing in the ruins of her life, facing her own death, Cersei does not believe that nothing matters. She believes that she matters, that her child matters, that survival matters, that Jaime's arms around her matter. The mask lasted exactly as long as the power did. The moment the power was gone, the moment there was nothing left to protect her, the truth emerged. She was never a nihilist. She was a terrified woman, using nihilism as armor, and the armor is gone now, stripped away by dragonfire, the same way it was once stripped away by the Walk of Shame. And what is left is what was always left. A person who feels, a person who fears, a person who loves desperately and hopelessly and cannot stop. The stones fall, the ceiling collapses. Cersei and Jaime die together, holding each other, in the darkness beneath the Red Keep, the same Red Keep where she once sipped wine and watched the world burn. The same Red Keep where she sat on the Iron Throne and believed herself untouchable. The same Red Keep where she told herself over and over that nothing mattered, that no one mattered, that the world was empty and she was the only thing in it. And in the end, she was not alone. Jaime was there. He came back, even after everything, even after she threatened to have him killed, even after he left her for the North. He came back. Because whatever Cersei told herself about the world, whatever she believed about love being weakness and trust being foolishness, Jaime never believed it. Jaime always came back. That is the final, unbearable irony of Cersei's nihilism. The one thing she could never bring herself to believe in, the possibility that someone might love her without condition, without leverage, without self-interest, was true all along. Jaime loved her. Truly, completely, in a way that survived every betrayal and every cruelty and every cold manipulation. And Cersei spent 8 seasons unable to accept that love as anything other than a weapon or a weakness. And now it is too late. The stones are falling, the world is ending. And all she can do is hold him and feel, finally, without defense, without armor, without the lie of nihilism protecting her from the terrifying vulnerability of caring. Strip it to its essence, and the story is simple. A woman who was told at 13 that she would lose everything, who spent her entire life trying to prevent that loss through the accumulation of power, who discovered, over and over, that power cannot prevent loss, who adopted nihilism as a philosophy because nihilism makes loss bearable, who used that nihilism to justify acts of extraordinary cruelty, who achieved everything a person can achieve in her world, who discovered that achievement is empty, and who, in the final moments of her life, with no power left and no nihilism left, and nothing between her and the truth, discovered that she was human, that she was afraid, that she wanted to live, that the world mattered after all. But beneath that summary, before we leave Cersei beneath the rubble, there are moments scattered throughout the show's run that deserve attention. Small scenes, quiet confessions, moments where the mask slipped not in death but in life, and what lay beneath was visible for just long enough to be recorded. Misa is Season 3, Episode 10. It aired on June 9, 2013, and it contains a conversation between Cersei and Tyrion that, in retrospect, is one of the most revealing exchanges in the entire series. Not for what it says about their relationship, for what it says about what keeps Cersei alive. Tyrion has just been forced to marry Sansa Stark. He is drinking, heavily. Cersei finds him and, in one of those rare moments where the siblings are not actively trying to destroy each other, she tells him something honest. She tells him to give Sansa a child, not as a political maneuver, as mercy, because children are the only thing that has ever made life bearable for her. Tyrion pushes back. He points at Joffrey. Is Joffrey making her happy? And Cersei says something extraordinary. She says that when Joffrey was born, when he was a baby, he was all she had. That holding him was the first time in her life she felt there was a reason to be alive, that her children are the reason she did not kill herself. Let that settle for a moment. This is Cersei Lannister, the great nihilist, the woman who believes in nothing, telling her brother in plain language that without her children, she would have ended her own life. That is not nihilism. That is the opposite of nihilism. That is a woman for whom meaning exists, but is located in exactly one place. In her children, in the 3 golden-haired lives she created. Everything else in the world might be empty, but they are not empty. They are everything. And the prophecy says they will all die. Think about the architecture of that cruelty. The only meaningful thing in a nihilist's life is the one thing she has been told, since childhood, that she will lose. Her children are not just her reason to live. They are her proof that life can contain meaning. And the universe has promised to take that proof away, one by one, crown by crown, shroud by shroud. No wonder she becomes what she becomes. No wonder the nihilism deepens after Joffrey dies, after Myrcella dies, after Tommen steps from the window. Each death does not just take a child from her, it takes a piece of the evidence that meaning exists. Until, after Tommen, there is no evidence left. And the nihilism that was always lurking, always threatening, always held at bay only by the existence of her children, floods in and fills every space they left behind. The Gift is Season 5, Episode 7. It aired on May 24th, 2015. And it is the episode where the trap Cersei built for the Tyrells springs shut on her instead. She has armed the faith militant. She has given religious zealots the authority to arrest and imprison sinners. She has pointed them at Margaery and Loras Tyrell like a weapon. And in the final moments of the episode, that weapon turns in her hand. Lancel Lannister has confessed. He has told the High Sparrow everything. The incest, the murder of Robert, all of it. And as Cersei walks through the dark corridors of the Sept, smiling, savoring her victory over the Tyrells, the faith militant sees her. She screams. She thrashes. She shouts, "I am the queen." And it does not matter. The guards drag her into a cell, the same kind of cell she put Margaery in, the same treatment she designed for her enemies. This is the single greatest example of dramatic irony in Cersei's arc. She built the weapon that destroys her. She empowered the institution that humiliates her. She created the conditions for her own walk of shame. And the show makes sure you understand this. It is not chance. It is not bad luck. It is consequence. It is Cersei's own nihilistic manipulation of religious zealots coming back to consume her. But here is what makes it more than simple irony. The reason Cersei armed the Faith in the first place was to destroy the Tyrells, and the reason she wanted to destroy the Tyrells was to protect Tommen, to separate him from Margaery, to keep her last remaining child under her control, away from the influence of a woman she saw as a threat. Every terrible decision Cersei makes in Season 5 stems from the same impulse: protect the child, protect the last one, prevent the prophecy from completing. And the strategy she chose, the weapon she wielded, is the one that eventually kills Tommen, because the Walk of Shame leads to the wildfire, and the wildfire kills Margaery, and Margaery's death is what drives Tommen out the window. The direct causal chain from Cersei's attempt to protect her son leads to his death. She killed him. Not deliberately, not with her own hands, but through the machinery she set in motion specifically to save him. That is not tragedy in the classical sense. It is something worse. It is the fulfillment of prophecy through the very actions taken to prevent it. Oedipus running from Thebes toward the crossroads. Macbeth making the choices Duncan's death requires, Cersei arming the Faith to protect Tommen, and thereby guaranteeing his destruction. The prophecy does not happen despite her actions. It happens because of them. And that is the deepest layer of her nihilism. The universe is not just hostile. It is intelligent. It uses your own love against you. It takes your desperate attempts to prevent loss and converts them into the mechanisms of that loss. In a world like that, in a universe with that kind of cruel intentionality, nihilism is not pessimism. It is realism. It is the only honest response to a cosmos that punishes you specifically for trying to protect what you love. One more dimension of Cersei's nihilism requires examination: the gendered dimension. Because Cersei's nihilism is not just a response to loss. It is a response to a specific kind of loss that only women in her world experience. The loss of self that comes from being traded, owned, displayed, and defined entirely by your relationships to men. Cersei tells Robert, in You Win or You Die, that she loved him once. Before the wedding night, before Lyanna's name, and what she describes is not just a romantic disappointment, it is the annihilation of her identity. She entered that marriage as Cersei Lannister, a person with desires and hopes, and an understanding of herself as someone who could be loved. She exited that marriage as a vessel, a womb, a political convenience. Robert did not see her. Robert never saw her. Robert saw a body in the shape of a dead woman, and that was all she ever was to him. That is a form of existential negation that drives directly toward nihilism. When the most powerful man in the world looks at you and sees nothing, sees no one, sees only the ghost of someone else, what conclusion can you draw about your existence? You are not real, you do not matter. Your inner life, your intelligence, your capacity for love, none of it registers. You are furniture. You are scenery. You are the empty space where someone else used to be. And Cersei responded to that negation in the only way available to her. She refused it. She said, "If you will not see me, I will make myself so visible that you cannot look away. If you will not acknowledge my power, I will acquire so much power that it becomes impossible to ignore. If you will not love me, I will become someone who does not need love, who does not want love, who has moved beyond the weakness of needing to be seen by anyone." That is the feminine nihilism of Cersei Lannister. Not the rejection of meaning in general, the rejection of a world that grants meaning only to men. Tywin has meaning because he is a lord. Jaime has meaning because he is a knight. Tyrion, even Tyrion, has more meaning than Cersei because he is a son who could theoretically inherit. And Cersei has no meaning at all except as someone's daughter, someone's wife, someone's mother. Never herself, never Cersei, just the space between the men who define her. She tells this to Ned Stark explicitly. The first man she married loved a dead woman. Her father treats her as a commodity. Her son is a monster she cannot control. And Robert, the king, the man whose name she was supposed to bear with pride, has never once, in 17 years of marriage, looked at her and seen a person worth knowing. In that world, nihilism is not a philosophical luxury. It is survival. If the world tells you that you do not exist, you have two choices: believe it and disappear, or reject the world entirely and insist, through force, through fire, through whatever means remain, that you exist, that you matter, that you will be seen. Cersei chose the second option, and the show traces the cost of that choice across 8 seasons. The people she burned, the relationships she destroyed, the children she lost, because protecting them required the kind of power the world refused to give her freely. The entire, terrible cascade of consequences that flows from a single source, a woman in a patriarchal world refusing to accept that she is nothing. That refusal is the engine of her nihilism, and it is also, paradoxically, the refutation of her nihilism. Because a true nihilist would accept non-existence. A true nihilist would not fight. A true nihilist would shrug and say, "Nothing matters, including me," and disappear into the silence of not being seen. Cersei cannot do that. She will not do that. Every fiber of her being screams against it. And that scream, that refusal, that desperate insistence on existing despite a world that denies her existence, is the most profoundly non-nihilistic thing in the entire show. She believes in nothing except herself. But belief in yourself is not nothing. It is, perhaps, the last belief that survives when all others have been stripped away. The final, irreducible kernel of meaning that even the most thorough nihilism cannot dissolve. I exist. I matter. I will not disappear. Cersei held on to that belief through everything. Through Robert and Tywin and the faith and the prophecy and the loss of all 3 children. Through wildfire and shame and siege and dragonfire. And perhaps that is why Cersei remains, years after the show ended, one of the most discussed characters in television history. Not because she was the most evil, not because she was the most powerful, but because she was the most honest about the cost of living in a world that does not care about you. Every other character in Game of Thrones maintained some illusion, some story they told themselves about why their suffering had meaning. Jon Snow had duty, Daenerys had destiny, Tyrion had wit, Sansa had resilience. They all had a frame, a narrative, a reason why the pain was worth enduring. Cersei had nothing. Cersei stripped away every frame, every narrative, every comforting story, and looked at the world naked, looked at it the way it actually is, cold, random, indifferent to human suffering, a machine that processes lives into corpses with no regard for virtue or vice, and she said it out loud. She named it. She refused to participate in the collective delusion that meaning exists beyond what we impose through force, and the audience hated her for it, not because she was wrong, because she was uncomfortable, because she said the thing that everyone suspects but no one wants to hear. That the world does not owe you anything, that being good will not save you, that the rules are a fiction maintained by people with enough power to enforce them and abandon the moment that enforcement becomes inconvenient. Cersei was the mirror the show held up to its audience. The character who embodied the question no one wants to answer. If the world is truly without meaning, if there is no cosmic justice, if the good can die horribly and the wicked can prosper, then what is the rational way to live? What philosophy survives contact with a universe that does not care? Cersei's answer was nihilism. Power for its own sake. Survival at any cost. The rejection of all values except the value of continuing to exist and continuing to dominate. And the show spent 8 seasons showing you both the freedom and the prison of that answer. The freedom to act without hesitation, and the prison of acting without purpose. The freedom to feel nothing, and the prison of feeling nothing. The freedom to need no one, and the prison of having no one. In the end, the show does not refute Cersei's nihilism with philosophy. It refutes it with Jaime's hand in hers, with her tears, with the baby she will never hold, with the simple, irreducible fact that a woman who claimed to believe in nothing spent her last moments desperately wanting something, wanting life, wanting love, wanting her child. The nihilism was the lie. The wanting was the truth, and the wanting came too late. Lena Headey has said she wanted a different, more dramatic death for Cersei, something more violent, more fitting for a woman who burned a sept full of people. But the writers chose rubble, they chose darkness, they chose Jaime, and that choice tells you everything about what the show believed Cersei's story was actually about. Not power, not politics, not the Game of Thrones itself. It was about a woman and her twin, a woman and the one person she could never fully push away, no matter how hard she tried. A woman and the love she spent her life denying, because admitting it would mean admitting she was vulnerable. And vulnerability, in Cersei's world, means death. She was right about that too. Vulnerability did mean death. She opened herself in the basement, and the ceiling fell. She reached for love, and the world ended. The last lesson the universe taught her was the same as the first. You cannot have what you love. You cannot keep what you hold. The prophecy was always true, and will always be true, and no amount of power or nihilism or wine or wildfire can change it. But she reached anyway. In the end, she reached for Jaime anyway. And that is not nothing. That is not meaningless. That small, final act of vulnerability, performed in the dark by a woman who spent her whole life refusing to be vulnerable, is the show's quiet answer to the question Cersei spent 8 seasons asking. Does anything matter? Yes, this matters. This moment. This hand in yours. This person beside you. Even if the ceiling is falling. Even if the world is ending. Even if you are about to lose everything for the last time. The reaching matters. The wanting matters. The love matters. Even when it cannot save you. Until the very last moment, in the basement of the Red Keep, when even that belief was not enough. When the stones fell, and the world took her anyway. Not because she did not fight. Not because she did not try. But because some losses cannot be prevented. Some endings cannot be avoided. Some prophecies will be fulfilled no matter how hard you struggle against them. Gold will be their crowns. And gold will be their shrouds. And in the end, gold was her shroud too. The golden hair. The golden lion. The golden cage of a world that told her she was nothing and then punished her for refusing to agree. That is the whole story. A woman who was told at 13 that she would lose everything. Who spent her entire life trying to prevent that loss through the accumulation of power. Who discovered, over and over, that power cannot prevent loss. Who adopted nihilism as a philosophy because nihilism makes loss bearable. Who used that nihilism to justify acts of extraordinary cruelty. Who achieved everything a person can achieve in her world. Who discovered that achievement is empty. And who, in the final moments of her life, with no power left and no nihilism left and nothing between her and the truth, discovered that she was human, that she was afraid, that she wanted to live, that the world mattered after all. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.